Mount Kailash, standing tall at 6,638 meters in the remote reaches of the Tibetan Plateau, is more than just a mountain. It is a place of immense spiritual significance, a geographical marvel, and a focal point of countless mysteries. Also referred to as Kailash Parbat, this peak has captured the imagination of explorers, scientists, and pilgrims alike. It is considered the spiritual epicenter of four of the world's major religions: Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Bon. In Hindu mythology, it is the abode of Lord Shiva, the god of destruction and transformation. For Buddhists, it is the home of Demchok, a representation of supreme bliss. Jains believe it to be the site where their first Tirthankara, Rishabhadeva, attained liberation. Followers of Bon, Tibet's indigenous religion, consider it the seat of all spiritual power. There is no doubt that it is one of the holiest places on earth, but at the same time, there are numerous mysteries surrounding the mountain. So, today let's talk about some of the biggest mysteries related to Kailash Parbat one by one, and see if there is a scientific explanation for them. The first biggest mystery is that nobody can climb Kailash Parbat, and that the mountain is protected by divine forces that prevent anyone from climbing it. According to some legends, those who attempt to climb Mount Kailash are met with insurmountable obstacles, or mysterious forces that turn them back, reinforcing the idea that the mountain is not meant to be scaled by humans. Some myths suggest that climbing Mount Kailash would bring severe consequences, such as aging rapidly or encountering supernatural events. Yes, it is true that nobody has ever climbed the mountain, but that is out of respect and reverence for the mountain. Climbing Kailash Parbat is considered a blasphemous act. In Hindu tradition, Mount Kailash is regarded as the abode of Lord Shiva, one of the principal deities. Shiva is believed to reside at the summit of the mountain, meditating and governing the universe. Climbing the mountain would be seen as an act of disrespect, as it would disturb the sanctity of the divine residence. In Tibetan Buddhism, the mountain is also seen as a physical representation of Mount Meru, the mythical center of the universe. Climbing it would be akin to defiling a sacred site that holds immense spiritual power. And in Jainism, the mountain is considered so holy that setting foot on it would be viewed as a violation of its sanctity. In addition to religious prohibitions, the Chinese government, which administers the Tibetan Autonomous Region, where Mount Kailash is located, has officially banned climbing the mountain. This ban aligns with the religious sentiments and helps protect the site from potential desecration by climbers. In 1926, the famous mountaineer Hugh Rutledge was one of the first to attempt an expedition. But he stopped short, overwhelmed by the mountain's spiritual significance. The famous Italian mountaineer Reinhold Messner, who was the first person to climb all 14 of the world's 8,000-meter peaks, was granted permission by the Chinese government in the 1980s to climb Mount Kailash. However, he later decided against it, recognizing and respecting the mountain's sacredness, acknowledging that some summits are meant to remain untouched. In the words of Reinhold Messner, "If we conquer this mountain, then we conquer something in people's souls. I would suggest they go and climb something a little harder. Kailash is not so high and not so hard." In 2001, a team of Spanish climbers was also granted permission to climb the mountain. But after global outcry from various religious groups, the expedition was canceled. Apart from this, there is just a legend that talks about the famous Tibetan Buddhist monk, Milarepa from 11th century, who climbed the mountain. Beyond spiritual reverence, the mountain presents formidable physical challenges. Its steep, icy slopes, unpredictable weather, and the fact that it lies in one of the most remote regions on Earth make any attempt to reach the summit perilous. But that is also true for other mountains like K2 and Everest, which are much taller than Kailash Parbat, and humans have been able to summit them. Now let's talk about the aging mystery. There are stories which say that those who have attempted to climb Mount Kailash have experienced rapid aging. There is a famous legend that says that a group of Siberian climbers attempted to summit Mount Kailash, and they encountered mysterious and supernatural forces during their climb, which ultimately forced them to abandon their attempt. When they returned to the base, they were shocked to find out that they had aged significantly, with some reports suggesting they had aged as much as a few decades in just a matter of days. The stories of rapid aging on Mount Kailash are a modern myth exaggerated over time. It is not based on any documented expedition or scientific evidence, and no known mountaineering team has ever reported such an experience. Like many myths, the tale of rapid aging may serve as a symbolic warning. It reinforces the idea that Mount Kailash is a place of immense spiritual power that should not be disturbed by human ambition. Moving on to the next mystery, which says that it is impossible for airplanes to fly over Mount Kailash because it is believed to be protected by divine forces, and these supernatural powers prevent any aircraft from flying over it. Some myths suggest that Mount Kailash emits powerful magnetic forces, or energies that interfere with the navigational instruments of aircraft, making it impossible or dangerous to fly over. But the real reason why planes don't fly over Mount Kailash is due to a combination of challenging environmental factors and potential navigational issues. Mount Kailash is located in the remote and rugged terrain of the Tibetan Plateau, surrounded by the Himalayas. The area's high altitude, with peaks reaching over 6,000 meters, presents significant challenges for aviation. The high terrain leaves little margin for error, and in the event of an emergency, there are limited options for safe landing. The region is known for its unpredictable and harsh weather conditions, including strong winds, heavy snowfall, and sudden storms. These conditions can make flying hazardous and difficult to navigate. Because of these reasons, the airspace over Mount Kailash is generally considered restricted, either officially or through a mutual understanding among aviation authorities and airlines. Also, there is no scientific evidence to support the existence of magnetic anomalies around Mount Kailash that would affect aircrafts, and most of the claims are anecdotal. Moving on to the next mystery on our list. This mystery has to do with the fact that Kailash Parbat is shaped like a pyramid, and this distinctive appearance has given rise to various myths and theories. One of the most popular myths suggests that Mount Kailash is not a natural formation, but an ancient, man-made pyramid. Some believe it was constructed by a lost civilization, or even by extraterrestrial beings, serving as a monumental structure with unknown purposes, possibly as a spiritual or energy center. Another myth claims that the pyramid-like shape of Mount Kailash channels spiritual energy or cosmic power. Some believe that Mount Kailash is connected to other ancient pyramids around the world, such as those in Egypt, Mexico, and China. This theory posits that these pyramids form a global grid of energy or spiritual significance, with Mount Kailash being a central or key point in this network. But in reality, there is no scientific evidence to support the idea that Mount Kailash is a man-made structure. Geologists confirm that the mountain is a natural formation, composed of sedimentary rocks and shaped by millions of years of geological processes, including uplift and erosion. Also, Mount Kailash is not the only mountain with a pyramid-like shape. Other mountains around the world, such as the Matterhorn in the Alps and Mount Assiniboine in the Canadian Rockies, also exhibit similar shapes. In the case of Mount Kailash, glaciers may have contributed to its pyramidal shape by eroding the surrounding rocks in a way that accentuated its sharp angles and symmetrical appearance. The mountain's symmetrical appearance may be partly due to the crystalline structure of the rocks that make up Mount Kailash. Certain rock formations, particularly those that have been subjected to intense pressure and heat, can fracture and erode in a way that produces geometric shapes, such as the pyramid-like structure seen in Mount Kailash. The next mystery on our list is that of the two lakes around the mountain, Lake Mansaravar and Lake Rakshastal. Lake Mansaravar, situated at an altitude of about 4,590 meters, is one of the highest freshwater lakes in the world. The lake is almost perfectly round, with crystal-clear turquoise-blue waters that reflect the surrounding snow-capped peaks, including Mount Kailash. It is considered one of the holiest lakes in the world. In Hindu tradition, Lake Mansaravar is believed to have been created by Lord Brahma, the creator god. The name Mansaravar comes from the Sanskrit words manas, mind, and Saravar, lake, meaning lake of the mind. Lake Rakshastal lies just west of Lake Mansaravar and is connected to it by the Gangachu Channel. Unlike its neighbor, Rakshastal has a more irregular shape and is a saltwater lake, with its waters appearing dark and foreboding. Its name means Lake of the Demons. Despite being so close to each other, the two lakes have very different characteristics. Mansaravar is a freshwater lake, teeming with life and vegetation, while Rakshastal is a saltwater lake, barren and devoid of aquatic life. This contrast adds to the mystery and intrigue surrounding the two lakes, making them a subject of fascination for both pilgrims and scientists. The stark difference in the nature of the two lakes, one being sacred and the other being associated with demons, represents the duality of good and evil, light and darkness, and life and death. From a geological standpoint, here's the reason behind the contrasting nature of the lakes. Both the lakes are fed by meltwater from glaciers and snow in the surrounding mountains. Rainfall in the region also contributes to the water level of the lakes. Lake Mansaravar, which is connected to the nearby rivers, lacks significant evaporation, and the inflow of freshwater sources help maintain its low salinity and clear waters. In contrast, Rakshastal has no natural outlet. Rakshastal is an endorhak or closed basin lake. This means that water leaves the lake primarily through evaporation, which contributes to its high salinity. Over time, the continuous evaporation process has concentrated the salts in the water, making Lake Rakshastal a saline lake. This high salinity makes it inhospitable to most forms of aquatic life, which contrasts sharply with the fresh and life-supporting waters of Lake Mansarovar. Now let's talk about the mystery of swastika and Om formations on the mountain. One of the most famous natural formations on Mount Kailash is the shadow pattern that appears on the south face of the mountain, particularly during the afternoons. As the sunlight casts shadows across the mountain's ridges and valleys, the resulting pattern is said to resemble a swastika. On the west face of the mountain, some people believe they can see the formation of the Sanskrit symbol Om, which is one of the most sacred sounds and symbols in Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism. This symbol represents the sound of the universe and the essence of ultimate reality. In the eyes of believers, these natural formations are not just coincidental. They are viewed as divine manifestations, indicating the sacred nature of Mount Kailash. From a geological perspective, these formations can be explained as natural features of the mountain's rock face, shaped by millions of years of erosion, weathering, and tectonic activity. The human brain has a tendency to recognize familiar patterns, a phenomenon known as pareidolia, which could explain why people see symbols like the swastika and Om in the mountain's features. You will probably see this picture floating on the internet, claiming that the Om formation can be clearly seen on Mount Kailash. But this is actually the picture of a different mountain in India by the name Om Parvat. Now the next one is quite interesting. Mount Kailash is often considered the center of the earth, not in a literal geographical sense, but in a symbolic, spiritual, and cosmological context. Mount Kailash is often viewed as the axis mundi, or the world axis, a point where heaven and earth meet. It symbolizes the connection between the physical and spiritual worlds. Some theories suggest that the distances between Mount Kailash, Stonehenge, and the North Pole and the South Pole are mathematically significant or geometrically aligned, in a way that implies a central or special position for Mount Kailash on the Earth's surface. Mount Kailash is approximately 6,600 meters tall. It is approximately 6,600 kilometers from the North Pole, approximately 6,600 kilometers from the Stonehenge in the UK, and approximately 13,200 kilometers from the South Pole, which is 6,600 times 2. And this is quite an interesting fact. But if we don't approximate, the exact distance between Mount Kailash and the North Pole is 6,563.51 kilometers. The distance from the Stonehenge and the mountain is 6,932.38 kilometers, and between South Pole and the mountain is 13,440.42. And Kailash Parbat is 6,638 meters tall. At the same time, adding Stonehenge to the mix seems kind of random. The inclusion of Stonehenge seems more about finding a famous site that can be argued to fit into the narrative, rather than there being any substantial historical or scientific connection between the two. If we look beyond these mysteries and myths, we will see the real reason why Mount Kailash is so significant and sacred, and is considered one of the holiest places on Earth. Mount Kailash is a significant source of some of Asia's most important rivers. It is a source of life-giving waters, and countless civilizations have come up along their banks. The Indus River, one of the longest rivers in the world, originates from the northern slopes of the Kailash Range near Lake Mansarovar. The Sutlej River, the longest of the 5 rivers that flow through the Punjab region, also originates near Mount Kailash, specifically from the Rakshastal Lake. The Brahmaputra River originates from the Angsi Glacier near Mount Kailash in the Tibetan region. The Karnali River, the longest river in Nepal, originates near Mount Kailash and is a tributary of the Ganges River. Every year, thousands of pilgrims undertake the arduous journey to Kailash Parbat to perform the sacred Kora or Parikrama, a circumambulation of the mountain. This 52-kilometer trek is believed to cleanse one's sins and bring spiritual enlightenment. For many, the journey is not just a physical challenge, but a deeply transformative experience. That brings us to the end of the video. Alive and Curious is a new channel and would love to have your support. So please like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more such stories from around the world.